Thought we were doing another countdown there. What's up, everybody? Josh Chernoff here on the Podcast Heat YouTube channel, and I am joined by former European, multi-time European champion, former Intercontinental champion, creator of the bobblehead. I think that might not be, I don't know if that's true or not. Mr. D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, what's up, man? How you doing?
Josh, what's my man? What's going on? How are you doing? And first of all, I want to apologize to everyone out there for being late. That's unprofessional of me, and it'll never happen again. Cross my heart.
Don't even worry about it. Excited to have you here. Appreciate you taking the time for the lowdown on WWE releases. Obviously,
Yes,
not an
sir.
exciting time for a number of people who've been released by WWE. These same kind of releases happened, I think, about a year ago. This is something that happens post WrestleMania. Before we get into the people who actually were released, unfortunately, you were not immune to this. You've experienced this with WWE as well. Can you kind of take us through the mindset maybe that you had, or what you think some of these people might be going through right now when that happens to you?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's one of those things. It does come out of left field for sometimes because you feel you're doing everything you can. I know in my particular case, I thought I was doing everything I could. And then it's a shock, particularly if you've only lived in the WWE bubble, i.e., whether it be developmental and or the main roster. If you've never experienced life on the independent, it's a shock because you don't know what's on the other side. You have nothing to gauge it against. You don't know what your value is out there. You don't know where and when you can find work. So it kind of throws you into in a little bit of a turmoil.
Now, when you were released, I don't think I guess TNA was around,
Hmm.
but that was kind of it, right? For the most part, there wasn't that much going on in the US, we'll say, at least, right? Now there people online are instantly, booking, oh, where's Braun Strowman going to show up next? Where's, Caden Carter going to go? So right off the bat, that's kind of a neat twist this day and age where the internet actually can be a positive, because it's a great way for other promotions to look at the fan reaction and who
Yeah,
are saying, oh, hey, we want to see them
absolutely.
here.
Absolutely. The way you described it earlier is correct because, WCW had just gone under. So the only thing in America was TNA and WWE. Um, so yeah, your choices were limited. There's very few roster spots. Now, with the rise of the independents, with the advent of England and a lot of Japanese companies, multiple Japanese companies that want foreigners to come over, it I'm not going to say the opportunities are limitless, but if you put a little work in, it's not going to take you long after your 90 days to get booked somewhere. In fact, you'll probably be booked ahead of your 90-day, just waiting to go make that trip over there. So I think it's a little bit easier today getting that second booking or getting out on that secondary market compared to 20 years ago when I was released.
So one thing that I did see, and a lot of people obviously make comments, a lot of people in the business giving advice. Matt Cardona is one who gave advice on the options that these people
Hmm.
have, which is they can either be down on themselves, they can ride along on the name of I'm a former WWE superstar, or they can completely reinvent themselves, and which is obviously what Matt did. um
Hmm.
what is your take on, what would be your advice? I guess, would you suggest that these people go right to trying to reinvent themselves, or do you think there is also still value in saying, hey, like looking at like a Braun Strowman, that's an act that was pretty successful that a lot of people are familiar with. Would you say, hey, it's time for you to completely reinvent yourself, or say, let's see how far you can go outside of WWE with that same character?
And that's you can go a couple different ways. For me, if I were, and this depends on the person. If I were Braun Strowman, he's a very unique individual. People know his look, his size, everything about him. It's hard to repackage that. Um, but if you look at some of like Shayna Baszler, it's hard for her to repackage that because that's who she is.
Right.
But Katana Chance, maybe it's a chance. Maybe she can change herself and reinvent herself and go back out into the market and become something different and try to become a different act that may once again draw the attention of the larger companies.
Now, looking at some of the people that you were naming there and that I named are main roster releases. We also had a ton of NXT talent released.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women were released, and that's something that people have been critical about online. Why were there so many women?
Right.
My theory, for whatever it's worth, and I'm curious your opinion, is there has been an influx of them going, hey, the women's division is so hot right now. Let's build more and more and more. And maybe they built too many, right, at this time that they feel like they can use. Maybe not. They do have a women's tag division that's pretty empty at this point with these releases. But what do you think with the NXT talent? Because these are people who maybe can't throw around the I'm former WWE superstar
Yeah.
certain name here. So what type of advice would you have for those people?
For those individuals, particularly the NXT brand, they've been exposed on a national level, but not to the extent of the main roster. This is a great opportunity for you to take the training, the TV time that you've gotten, and now reinvent yourself and take that package somewhere else, because you're basically a brand new commodity to the wrestling world outside of the WWE bubble. And if you can take that and reinvent yourself and go out there, there is a long career waiting for you out there, whether it be an AEW, a TNA, an MLW, or if you want to take your talents over to Japan. There's a long career path for you out there, as long as you're an act that can draw attention to itself.
I was just over this past weekend or last weekend, did a stage show that had Shelton Benjamin on it. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we were talking about was his time initially before he left WWE, and then how long he was gone and then came back. And now it seems like it's like, of course he's in AEW, but when you're in the moment of being released, I'd imagine there is this feeling of instantly clock is ticking on my career. Wait, I
Yes.
was here. How long is it going to take for me to get back? Am I yesterday's news now? Am I ever going to go back? And one of the conversations I had with him was about like that entire time. And then when he came back and this whole new resurgence with the Hurt Syndicate and everything that he's been a part of now, and a guy like Bobby Lashley as well, who was also on that, how he was like, is he going to be this huge star? And then he was just gone for so long. Then he came back, became WWE champion, right? Like, so there are so many examples of people who have left and then come back and had that complete career resurgence. Can you speak to anything with like the idea of, like I said, the time? Because I do feel like there is this thing where someone might look at it and go, oh man, if I'm gone for a year, 2 years, that puts me at this age. And now I'm here. And now, but then when you go 15 years later and you look back, you go, oh man, that was such a short blip. What's your advice maybe you can give to people who might be feeling that way?
I'm a big firm believer of how can I miss you if you don't go away? And there is something good to taking that time away, removing whatever the thought was about you in one company, giving some time to pass. Then people, they go from where is he to I miss him or her. And then when you return, it's, oh my God, there they are. And your return is bigger than it would have been if you'd just rushed right into another contract somewhere. There is that thing, there is good time to take away from it. To recharge yourself, because you've been on the road a ton if you've been in NXT and on the main roster. So give your body a little chance to heal. Rededicate yourself to the gym. Give your time, your mind a chance to clear. And in that 6 months, year, 2 years you're away, you gave great examples of it. Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, all took time away from their WWE run. They took substantial amount of time, and then when they popped up on AEW, it was not, oh, there they are, WWE rejects. It's, oh my God, there they are. Mm-hmm. And that is because of that gap they gave themselves to do all the above things and let the fans take a breath. Because a lot of these guys have been on TV for multiple years, 5, 10, 12 years, every Monday night, every Friday night. Give some people a chance to breathe, to miss you, and when you come back, it's a bigger return, in my opinion.
You mentioned, to dedicate themselves to the gym, that maybe, and that's obviously not suggesting anyone who was
No,
released
no,
is
not
out of
at all.
shape, but saying, and one person that came to mind right then was Drew McIntyre. When you look at the
Mm-hmm.
guy that left as part of
Yes.
3MB and the guy that returned, this was a guy dedicated himself to the gym, dedicated himself to the independent scene. Of course, he was in Impact, and spent time there and all, but a guy like Drew, another one that has to come to mind, wasn't released, asked for his release, was Cody Rhodes. It goes out saying what Cody did. So I think in a lot of ways, and it's absolutely easy for me to sit here and say this, having not just been released, but there is such an opportunity, and there are these roads that have been paved already by other people
Mm-hmm.
to say, you can do this, you can go and reinvent yourself, or you can go and just make yourself a bigger version of what you were before. So
Yes.
yeah, I think that opportunity is there. Was there anyone in the list of people who were released that shocked you, or anyone in particular, maybe?
I mean, Braun shocks me just because he's prototypical WWE, the large man who you could put against any other big guy, and he could be an automatic contender. Um, a lot. Shayna Baszler got me too because I thought they really liked her, and liked what she brought to the table. But once again, releases are not about. They're not about the person in particular. They're about, does this act fit into what we're doing at this moment? And if it doesn't, maybe it's a better chance to go give them a chance to go out into the world and freshen themselves up, um, and find a different path. And once again, you put it out there. There are so many different paths that you can take now. You follow the Drew McIntyre path. He left a boy and came back a grown ass man.
Yeah.
You look at Matt Cardona, he left and just became a whole different entity. Cody Rhodes left, helped start a company, and came back a bigger star than he was in the company he started. So you don't have to be a trailblazer. You just have to follow a path that's already been laid down and look at the people and look at the examples that are already out there for you. And as long as you don't give up on yourself, because right now this is about proving it to yourself, not about proving to a company is wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you're as good as you believe you are. And if you believe you're as good as you are, you'll have the opportunity again to be on that level.
I think it was, I want to say it was Sean Ross Sapp recently said this. And if it wasn't, I apologize, because he gets enough crap from people. But
Yeah.
I believe he said something along the lines of, and I don't remember who it was he was referring to from these releases, but if Triple H wanted them there, they would still be
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yes.
So kind of going back to, your experiences with whether it was your own personal release or being around in a locker room when someone else was released. Can you kind of walk us through the mindset here of what goes into the thought process? Like you mentioned, it's not a personal thing on them. I can't imagine it was personal on any of these names that we've seen.
Mm.
So I've heard nothing but good things about all of them. So where is this something where, because we see people who are on TV, Braun Strowman, I know he had kind of wrapped up what he was doing with Jacob Fatu,
Mm-hmm.
but he was still very much in the mix, a lot of time, a lot of TV time being dedicated to him, still a
Yeah.
great reaction. So when this comes up, is this something and I know we're talking about modern day WWE, so maybe it's a little bit different, but who's making this decision, right? Who's coming? Is someone coming to Triple H and saying, we're going to let this person go? Are you okay with that? Is this someone going, hey, Triple H, we need you to cut some people from create? Like, can you walk us through, at least in your opinion or what you might know of how that
Uh,
works?
from what I know of, and I can only speak on the past, I'm not sure how things work in the new Endeavor world. Um, I know that they'll look at talent as a list and go, these guys or girls aren't producing the way we thought they could. Are there any of them that we can continue to work with and maybe give them another opportunity? Or is it better to let them go and freshen themselves up? So they'll look through that list and they'll go through the list and they'll okay, yes, here, maybe here, no, here, and then pare it down to a number where they think that's a good number to cut. And there you go. And that's pretty much how it works. And it's nothing, once again, it's nothing personal, it's just business. It happens in every sport. I mean, how many times you heard NFL guy gets released, Major League Baseball player gets released, NBA player gets released. It happens in every sport. Turnover happens. It happens in every regular job in America. We just don't hear about it when someone gets let go unless they're part of your family.
And
Um,
that's a great point, because there's a lot of the times you see these people who go like, oh, this is a billion dollar, multi-billion dollar company. How come they're letting somebody go? Why are they, and again, I don't think, like, now, obviously I feel terrible for everyone who was released, but I don't think people think that through sometimes. This happens in every single job known to
mhm,
man. This is, so
yes. I mean, it's a common occurrence, and even Amazon, they let people go. It's just part of doing business. Sometimes you have to prune a tree to let it grow bigger. It's unfortunate. It sucks. I've been on both sides of this. I've been released, and I've been the one to release someone, and it is not fun for anyone on any side of this equation.
have you been the one who had to notify, or the one who had to make the decision, or both?
I've been the one to notify. In TNA, I was the one who would notify a few people. So I made that phone call, and it's not fun. It's not pleasant. It's nothing I ever envisioned doing, and it's not a fun job. Um, and I've been on the other side where I've gotten that phone call where it's okay, we're going to go in a different direction, and it's time to let you go. So I've been on both sides of that equation.
Do you think the fact that you had been on the other side of that maybe was slightly easier for the people that you had to call, when they're hearing from a guy that they know has been there, that they know is not just some corporate guy, up in the tower somewhere, telling them, oh, sorry, we got to let you go, whatever, that they're looking, hey, this is D'Lo. D'Lo's been there. He's one of the boys.
Mhm.
He understands. Do you think that helped at all?
I would hope, because every time I've made that phone call, I would talk to that talent and explain to them this is not the end of the road. It's just another chapter in your long story. And I'm an example of someone who got released and then went on to do really good things, in Japan. And then I never lost relevance in America. So it's up to you. And yeah, I would hope that it came becoming for me became a little easier, as opposed to some dude who never bumped or some lady who never bumped, and they're going, it's a cost cutting measure and we got to let you go. Um, I would hope it came off a little easier, a little more palatable.
So I want to give a shout out to all of our ad-free shows members who are tuned in here, who are joining us. One in particular here, Matthew Rodriguez, says, "Hey D'Lo, Alex here," which it does say Matthew Rodriguez, but we'll just say Alex. I have the stomach flu and watching you. Respect. So
Oh,
feel better, man.
bro, feel better. The stomach flu absolutely sucks. Uh, I was sick with it probably 2 months ago, and if I close my eyes, I still feel that way, but it gets
Oh.
better. It'll get better. Just keep pushing on, my friend. Keep pushing on.
um, Travis Drum made a point here. He says, "I love how people think this is Triple H's fault. Like, are you really that dumb?" He's not mincing words here. He has nothing to do with that side of it. I guarantee you, The Rock has more of a say about the releases than Triple H does. Where do you land on something like that? Obviously, The Rock very well, but where do you land on just his position on the board? Do you think The Rock actually had any idea about any of these releases or anything to do with it whatsoever?
I would venture a guess and say no. I don't think Rock is looking at the roster going, let's trim the fat here, here, and here. Um, Half of that statement is true. Like I don't believe Triple H has very little to do with it, other than it's a budget, it's a bottom line thing, it's a budget thing,
Mhm.
and we just have to have names attached to that budget. That's all. And I don't see no one sitting in office going, "Let me get this girl, let me get this guy, and I'm going to cut them now." That's not what's happening. I truly believe Rock has nothing. I don't think Rock really even knows half these people that were released in many ways. So I don't see him making the red line across their name.
Do you think that there is this instance where people there are people who do not know who the talent is making the cuts based purely on looking at a contract coming due, looking at a contract that maybe isn't coming due, but they see a way that they can get out of it. What do you think that maybe there are some of these people who are just making a decision based purely on numbers?
And that's a possibility because it is a numbers game, and you can say we need to cut the budget by 3%. So how do we get there? And then it's okay. These contracts are coming up in the next 9 months. This one is a year out. This guy has been sitting home for a year, and we've been paying him because of whatever reasons, and now it just becomes a numbers issue. And I don't even know if people put names attached to it. You see contract numbers. Now I'm assuming, and I'm speculating. I have no clue the internal working of how they do business there. I'm just speculating, but I don't. Once again, it's nothing malicious in terms of we're going to end this guy's career. Let's fire him.
And again, I point to Drew McIntyre. We heard a lot about when he re-signed recently. Heard a lot of numbers thrown around of what that contract was. And I can tell you, it was, without knowing the exact numbers, I can guarantee you it was a lot more than what he was making when he was released. So it's not always a bad thing to have that
No.
opportunity. And people just need to, stay positive with that. I will say, talk to him, Wavy says, D'Lo, one more match versus Gunther.
Man, okay. D'Lo in my prime would love to get there with Gunther. I think he is one of the absolute most solid and best workers on the planet right now. And I would go take that chop in a heartbeat. Like, I would love to get in there with Gunther. Now, D'Lo today, nah, bro, nah, dog. I'm good. But yeah.
Josh in his prime would have hid under the ring.
Okay,
so,
no problem.
We also have Mr. Legendary Jelly, which, what a name. Had the honor to meet you, D'Lo, in 2004. Huge fan of yours since the Attitude Era. Stay blessed. Always nice to just see these things. I want to throw them out there, and we do appreciate everyone from that.
I appreciate it. Mr. Legendary Jelly, bro, it's a hell of a moniker, bro. You're like the Count of Monte Fisto. I love it.
So if anybody has any questions related to these releases, questions or comments for D'Lo, throw them in the chat here. Again, there were a number of releases that, came from the main roster, even more from NXT, some of which were people that were very recently on television. But I think as we've been saying here, and D'Lo, the advice that you're giving and the perspective, I think, is really important for all of this talent to know that it's not the end, that this can actually be the beginning of something huge for their careers.
Yeah, ask Matt Cardona. I keep going back to that. Ask Cody Rhodes. Ask Drew McIntyre. This is just the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, and you're on the first third of a book. It can be the end if you let it be the end, and if you let it get to you. But to me, when I was released, I took it as a personal challenge to prove how good I was and what I was worth to myself. And if I did that, the rest of the world would see it. So that's the advice I'm giving to them.
Now, after you were released from WWE, you did eventually come back. And then what was the scenario that led to you being released that second time?
So I came back, and it was a money crunch again, because that was 2008, and the world was going through an economic crisis. So money was down, expendable income was down. So they once again made budgetary cuts based on expenses, and I got released a second time. And that's, for me, it was a blessing in disguise, because that's the time when I got released, I transitioned in being an agent and starting to work on the backside of wrestling, and that's what I've been doing since 2008, is working, helping young talent and helping develop talent, and working in various companies in their office. So that second release let me know that, my body can only last for so long. My time on TV can only last for so long, but hopefully my wrestling mind can allow me to continue to earn an income in this industry, which it has.
Yeah. And that's another example, right, of taking that release and instead of going, oh man, I was released a second time. Oh, well, what am I going to do? That was a way to go. And now you more than likely will be able to continue in this path way longer than you ever would have been able to just as an in-ring performer. So it's, yeah,
I have another hopefully 20 years of helping produce talent. That would put me into my 70s, and I would never see the ring at 70 years old. So if I can continue to help mold young talent and produce young talent, then I'm more than happy to do that. And in a few years, I will have been out of the ring working in wrestling than I was in the ring working in wrestling.
is that crazy? Man.
Absolutely crazy.
We have a Revolution Z 420. Maybe that's supposed to be Revolutions 420. Where do you see some of these talents fitting in going forward? So we've touched on that a little bit, but if there's anyone
Mhm.
in particular that you can lay
If
out where you
if
see.
if I were Braun, I would go take over Japan. I mean, a 7-foot American in Japan right now. I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
He'd be a monster over there and could be the American heel that they've been dying for a long time. So for me, that's where I would go. Go over. And I'll never talk about other people's money and if they made enough, but it's not like he's hurting for cash right now. So he can go spend some time over there and reinvent himself and make a ton more money. Some of the ladies, there's the AEW route, there's the TNA route. I mean, all are viable, places to go and still maintain that national exposure. I mean, today in wrestling is the greatest time because now we've got 10 or 11 or 12 national companies that are out there with some form of television, from WWE to TNA to MLW to Impact, all across the board. AEW, I can't NWA, I can't name enough. So there's so many opportunities to go out there. It's up to the person to hustle to get out there and find the work, and they know they can.
Yeah. I mean, there's never a good time to be released, but I feel
Mm-mm.
like this is the best time if you're in professional wrestling to be
Yes.
released, right?
There's so many
The
landing spots now.
yeah,
There's so many places to land. Or there's so many independents out there that are worthwhile being a part of that you can help raise their profile. Wouldn't you want to be the guy or the girl who takes this company that's doing well and put them over the top that gets them national exposure because you chose them? There's
yeah.
so many opportunities out there.
And that's going back, we've mentioned him a ton of times, Matt Cardona with GCW.
Absolutely.
He not that GCW didn't have a reputation, but they didn't have the eyeballs that they got until, Cardona was there. And speaking of GCW, Shayna Baszler, we just saw her 3 weeks ago at
Yes.
Bloodsport.
Yep.
So, to me, that's kind of a no-brainer. I'd be shocked if we don't see her show up at least in Bloodsport, if not GCW. And then she has the route of, mixed martial arts as well. That's an opportunity
Yeah.
for her. So there's a lot of them. Another question here from Virgil Zandig. I have a question about a talent who was released 23 years ago. Okay. Was
Mm-hmm.
D'Lo in Puerto Rico with Russ? How do you pronounce the name?
McCullough. Russ
Acola.
McCullough.
Cornette
Yes.
just talked about him on his show.
Big Russ. I was not in Puerto Rico with him, but I do know him. I spent a little time with him in Louisville, and a big guy. Just never quite came to grips with what wrestling was, and could never really wasn't. I don't think he was athletic, but I don't just wrestling wasn't him. It wasn't for him because he could just never just really get it.
Virgil continued on with another question, which was, I don't know if Braun's body can handle working a proper Japan tour. So that wasn't really a question, more of a statement. Where would you land on that? And can you give us a little bit of like what the differences are between being on the road consistently with WWE and then working a Japanese tour?
Okay, so the WWE that is now, it's pretty much a TV company. So you're wrestling maybe 2 times a week. Um, a Japanese touring schedule, and by the way, WWE is you're flying everywhere, and maybe you're driving 200 miles or 300 miles at max. A typical Japan schedule will be 14 days, and it'll be 10 or 12 matches in 14 days, and you're riding on a bus and you're touring the entire island of Japan, from Tokyo down to Sapporo, down to Nagoya, or way, you know, you know, Osaka. Sapporo's up north, but you're touring up and down the coast of the country by bus. So you're driving 8, 9, 10 hours on a bus, then going to wrestle, then hopping on a bus and driving another 5 hours to your hotel. That does take a toll on you. But a guy like Braun, I don't think would be on the touring schedule. They'd bring him in for the big event. They might bring him in 2 days before, and he might do a smaller show outside Tokyo and then hit Tokyo. He's not going to be on the bus for 10, 12 days touring up and down the country.
So do you think now because that is a good point, the TV company with WWE versus what it was back when you were there.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that Braun's body, a guy that size, can handle that type of schedule?
Yeah, because they're going to take care of him and they're going to put him in a position to succeed and not fail. They're not going to, they'll look at him as a commodity and something we can draw money with. They're not going to beat that up or break that down. They're going to want to preserve that for as long as they can to make as much as they can with him as that act in Japan.
We have a couple other questions on here that aren't really about the releases, but they're, here's one that's always a good one. The J, I'm not even going to attempt to say your last name because I will screw it up. That's on me, not you. But it says, I'm Canadian. Any Owen stories? Everybody loves a good Owen story.
Man, I tell the same Owen story all the time because it's the best one. It's the one where, and if you've seen Dark Side of the Ring, I tell this story all the time. I was extremely nervous one time in the ring with Owen, and I don't know why I was nervous. It's not like I was brand new to the company. And I am just beating the living teetotal hell out of Owen. I'm killing him. And Owen is like, come on, D'Lo, relax. So then all of a sudden, Owen just takes over and goes in overdrive. He snap mares me, moves me around, puts me in a hold, and he goes, look at your boot. And I look at my boot, and my bootlace is untied. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? And one of the things you don't do, it's like having your zipper down, is having your bootlace untied. So I reach over and I tuck my bootlace back down, and as we're going again, Owen moves me around, snap mares me, puts me in a chin lock, goes, look at your other boot. That boot is unlaced. I'm like, what in the hell? So I'm like, this is embarrassing. I never do this. I tuck it back in again. Here goes Owen. Same thing, moves me around, chin lock. I look down, left boot, no, right boot, everything's okay. He goes, look at the ref. I look up, the ref's shoes untied. And so I start laughing in the middle of the ring. And that's when Owen just calmly goes, you relax now? And I go, yeah. And he goes, now let's go wrestle. And boom, off to the races we went, and we won another 15 minutes out there having a killer match. And I tell, Owen is so good. He could tell a joke. He could tell you he loved you, and he could do it all in front of 20,000 people in the middle of a 5-star match, and no one knew the difference other than you and him. That's how good Owen was. So, and I tell everybody also that no matter if Owen was even older than you, Owen was like your little brother because everyone protected Owen because we loved his ass. So that's one of my favorite Owen stories, and I miss him. I love him. And if you got the chance to be around Owen, you got to be around a special person.
Absolutely. Brentamania 89. Thank you for the little donation there. Says, I don't think WWE Shayna Baszler to full potential. I think what we're saying here is you don't believe WWE used Shayna Baszler to her full potential. Do you agree with that, D'Lo?
I think you could have gotten a lot out of Shayna Baszler. I mean, she's a crossbreed between, that mixed martial art and pro wrestling. She's that hybrid. And I think you could have got a lot out of her, but that's my perspective. I'm not the one writing the show. So yes, do I think they could have gotten more out of her? Yes, but those who were in charge they think it might freshen her up to go out into the real world and get an opportunity. And you don't know, any of these people who've been released could come back a year later 5 times as big a star.
Right.
So don't feel sad for them. Now your job is to watch where they land and to follow and support them because they'll need your support wherever they go. and then follow their road and their path back and see if they make it back there.
We have Mimic Gaming writes to us over here at Podcast Heat. Says, I got a question for D'Lo Brown. What was TNA like, and one thing TNA did with you, except WWE? So
I'm assuming he's talking about when I went there to go wrestle.
yeah.
The difference was TNA just allowed me to be me. They said, go be D'Lo. We know what you can do. And we're not going to hold you back. Just go be you. Go have fun. No restrictions. No, you can't do this. We're not going to put you in a box. Just go be D'Lo. Go shake your head. Go have some fun. Go talk and go have good matches. And that's what they allowed me to do, which allowed me to just relax a lot and be a better worker there. And then going forward, because I became, just more comfortable with myself. With WWE, you're put in this lane and you need to be this. Some guys, don't be a high flyer, don't hit the ropes too much, whatever it is, you need to be this guy. And I like the freedom that TNA gave me as well as Japan gave me, or touring around the world, to be myself, as opposed to the structured living of what WWE was.
We have a couple more here. We have a few more minutes. CJ Rocks asked a question. Again, not really about this, but hey, maybe somebody who was released would have fallen into this. D'Lo, if you could form the new Nation of Domination with current
Wow.
WWE or NXT roster, who would you
Whoa.
pick?
That's a tough one, because it was the easy parable was the Hurt Business, the Hurt Syndicate. That was the easy one because it very much mimicked the Nation in terms of attitude, size, talent. I think now, if you'd have started a new Nation, you'd have to start with the Street Profits. They'd have to be in there because they're very in that same line. Now, who else would fill out the rest of the roster? That's a tough one, but I would definitely start with the Street Profits. They would be 2 of the 4 members in my new Nation if I could do it.
Not bad. Not a bad new Nation starting out there.
That's a good start. That's a good start.
So what does it say? Hood FUDJ. Well, okay.
Okay.
Take what does he say here? It just jumped around. Can you throw that? There you go. Take note of Drew McIntyre converting to Galloway when he was released. Now is the time to use what WWE has taught you to go out there and show WWE whatever it is that you have in you that shines. That which they didn't see in you. He continues the show them why they should bring you back, or go Matt Cardona. If you love wrestling, hit the indies. So again, it's kind of just echoing a lot of what you've been saying here, D'Lo, which is these are their opportunities, to go out there and really choose one of these paths for themselves.
Think about this, particularly for the NXT kids. Think about your time at NXT as your time in college. And college has ended. Now it's time to go out into the real world and hone your skills. Hone the skills that were taught to you in college. Go out there and perfect them. If you perfect them, then you rise up the ranks of the business world. Look at it like that. Same thing for the guys and girls who've been on the roster. You've spent time in college. You've gotten a different degree. Now it's time to go out and get your master's. Go out into the world and redefine yourself and re-educate yourself and learn that new hold or get that new look and come back stronger. There's nothing but opportunity here. This is not the end of the line. I can't stress that enough.
I love that analogy for specifically the NXT stars. That it's almost like, and look, they were getting paid. So, hey, it's like you got a scholarship, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in college, you're taken care of, you're good. But yeah, now it's time to go out there
Now,
and eventually you're going to end up landing that big job. I love that.
Yep, absolutely. That's if you look at it like that bad of a deal, because a lot of us have graduated from college or graduated from high school and moved on to something else. So it's, once again, did you think it was the end of the world when you graduated college? Nope. This was just the first step in the rest of my life.
Let's do a couple more here and then we're going to go. Eric says, do you think companies would hesitate picking someone up if they knew that person's ultimate goal was to go back to the WWE? That's an interesting one. Like, think of AEW, right? If they're looking at this, does AEW say, I don't know. Am I looking at a Rusev? Am I looking at Alistair Black? Am I right? Like,
I mean, that's a double-edged sword because if someone is looking to go back to the WWE, they're going to give you a hell of 2.5, 3 years, how long their contract is, because they got to work their ass off to get there. And you're the beneficiary of that work if you're the company that has them. And then three, I've gotten my money out of them if I've had them around for 2 or 3 years. So if they decide to go back, then it's just part of the nature of the business. So I wouldn't hold that against them. I just know that if that's their ultimate goal, I'm going to get the best version of them for the time they're under contract with me.
it's an interesting way to look at it. That is true. And then, hey, you know what? It's also the employer's opportunity to make that be an environment where that talent doesn't want to leave.
Right there is the $1 million answer. I'm going to try to do everything I can in my power to make sure that that talent then goes, well, maybe my goal was to go back, but I'm so comfortable here. I'm in such a good spot here. I'm making X amount of dollars here. I don't want to leave here. And then that now promoter, that employer has won that battle.
So one last question here, because I think this is based on everything we were talking about. This is probably the best way to wrap it up. Is from Vijay asks, what was your mindset the day after you got released? So maybe this is kind of putting a bow on this, a way to kind of say, here's where my mindset was. And then I'll piggyback on that and say, and if it was a negative mindset, what turned it around for you?
So the day I was told my contract wasn't going to renew in 2003. The show was in Los Angeles, and I was living in Florida at the time, so I had to fly the red eye home. And I was upset, sad because he had worked so hard to get there, and I was angry to a point. And I got on the plane, and I remember sitting on the plane. I was mad as hell when we took off, sleeping. And I remember as I'm flying into Miami, I looked out the window, and this is I'm being prophetic here. I looked out the window, and the sun was rising, and I thought to myself, I got let go, but the sun still rose today. It ain't gonna be that damn bad. It ain't gonna be that bad. And I immediately got off the plane, got home, started making phone calls. I knew I had 90 days to figure out where the hell I was gonna go, and the work started the minute I got on the ground. And that was my mindset. I was angry when I took off, but by the time I processed it, 6 hours later, when I touched down, I was ready to go back to work and figure out where my next step was going to be. And now let's formulate a game plan on how am I going to attack the rest of my career? Where am I going now? What do I want to do? And if I'd have stayed in that anger, who knows? I could have quit the business. I could have been upset. Who knows? Me as a person, I was on to the next. Because look, I've been a product of sports. I've been cutting football. And then I've been an all-star. I've been cutting different things in life. I've been fired from shoot reel jobs. It just happens. You go get another one. And I knew I had enough skill, enough cachet where I was going to land somewhere. I just need to figure out where it was.
Well, listen, we're happy that you landed here with us tonight. We appreciate it.
I am too.
And again, the message, I hope if anybody who was released happens to tune into this, I think everything you said is nothing but helpful information that they probably do need to hear at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'll say to fans out there on the internet, let's also remember that these are people who some of them just got released from their dream jobs, and let's go a little easy on them. They're still human beings. But D'Lo, thank you so much for taking the time here on the Podcast Heat YouTube channel, and ad-free shows members, thank you for joining us here as well. I'm Josh Chernoff, and we will see you next time.